Okay, thank you and welcome everybody to today's meeting of Planning Committee B. I'm Councillor Hollier. I'll be chairing the meeting this evening, but the other members of the committee down either side of the tables. And at the top of the room, we've got Gareth Arnold, who's the Council's Development Manager. We've got Jane Meller, who's the Democracy Officer, and Sandra Bellingham, who's Council's Solicitor. Got any apologies? I think Councillor Webb's substituting for Councillor Perrott, but I think otherwise we're all here. Can I just ask if there's any declarations of interest? Can't see any. We've got two sets of minutes, one from the 3rd of October 2019. So it's a good memory. If you've got any problems with that one, speak now. Otherwise, I'll assume they're fine. And then we've got the minutes of the last meeting held on the 9th of March. If there's any comments on those? Can't see any, so I'll sign those and I'll sign a stack of other ones. There's no speakers under the general public participation remit of the committee, so we can move straight on to the plans list in the first item.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an application, a major application for an extension to an existing warehouse on George Cayley Drive, which is in Clifton Moor. It's an existing see if this catches up. I'm frozen, I'm afraid. Task manager. There we go. So the site is here, centre shot. Actually, the next Google Earth shot is better. So it's George Cayley Drive, Kettlestring Lane runs across to the north. There's a couple of office buildings and then mixed commercial car uses. The proposal is to demolish this building to the rear and build an extension that runs across the eastern end of the site. It's predominantly a warehouse with support office towards the front of the site. You just pick out, and you see it on the elevations, you can just pick out the ridge of the roof runs slightly asymmetrical, so there's a longer, lower roof line on the northern side, where it abuts the northern side of the site. This is the view from Kettlestring Lane, so that view is taken from this point here. So it shows the northern side of the existing warehouse. This is the area where the warehouse will be, the extension will be constructed, and that's the flank wall of the part of the building to be demolished. And the frontage with this office building, which is used by North Yorkshire Police. So existing site plan, the George Cayley Drive and the entrance to the property. Existing elevations, so it shows the roof design that I was describing in the first photograph. Proposed site plan, so this is the extent of the extension. So the east end of the site. There are proposed additional cycle storage and bin storage enclosure. There's some rationalisation, an increase in car parking, and a new pedestrian entrance created from Kettlestring Lane. From George Cayley Drive. proposed ground floor plan, and then the elevations. Yeah, so this is the frontage. So this is the extension to the building. So that's set right back away behind that frontage part of the building. That's the extent of the extension from the south. And then from the north, this is that view, an extended building, that view from across the car park that I showed earlier. And then this is to the south, that shows that low slope towards the boundary on the north side. So I'll go back to that shot. Just some minor alterations to the conditions. Condition 2 on page 18, which is a list of approved plans. The ground floor plan should now be revision 4 instead of revision 3. And the first floor plan is revision P01 instead of P00. And condition 11, we are recommending its deletion because there's no works proposed to the existing entrance road and its junction with George Cayley Drive. That's it.
Okay, I'll ask the committee if there are any questions on the plans. Councillor Crawshaw.
Thanks, Chair. Just a quick one. It might be something that the applicant would answer rather than yourself, though. It was just around car parking, because actually that shot's a really helpful one. There seems to be quite a significant amount of car parking not within the currently designated parking spaces. And I just wanted to clarify whether the increase in car parking that's in this application is just a formalisation of existing car parking that's happening, or whether it's a reflection of an anticipated greater number of vehicles using the site.
That might be better for the applicants. I mean, in terms of our highways colleagues' comments, they're comfortable with the size of the car park compared to the size of the building that's proposed. That photograph, I don't know if the existing building occupiers, whether that aerial photograph is with them in occupation. So I don't know if that's vehicle storage or related to this particular use or not.
I'll put the same question to the applicant.
Okay, any further questions? No. Move on then to a public speaker who is Hamish Robertshaw. Back to join us at the hopefully you should know you've got 3 minutes to address the committee. I'll give you a warning about 30 seconds to go, but if you'd like to make a start in your own time.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Afternoon, members. I'm Hamish Robertshaw, the agent for the planning application. As you know, this application is for an extension to the existing premises of Abracs Limited, which is required to allow the continued growth of the business at its base here in York. Abracs is a successful local business and a leading UK supplier of materials and tools for cutting, grinding and sanding. Abracs House is the headquarters, office and a warehouse that holds a comprehensive stock facility. The proposed extension represents a significant investment in the site by both Abracs and the landowner, Impala Estates. The development will create an additional 1,800 square metres of warehouse space, whilst also improving the parking, servicing, pedestrian access and drainage arrangements of the site. Provision is made within the proposal for additional landscape planting, cycle parking, and the use of sustainable and energy efficient design and materials. The site is, as existing, is almost entirely hard standing with a very large yard relative to the size of the building. The development is therefore entirely brownfield and will serve to make more effective and efficient use of the existing site. It is of a scale and nature that is consistent with the existing building on the site and entirely compatible with the commercial uses that neighbour the site. Through the application process, no significant or environmental or technical matters have arisen. We've worked with council officers and consultees to ensure that matters relating to drainage, sewers, parking, access and circulation are positively resolved, and we'll bring forward a landscape planting scheme for biodiversity enhancement pursuant to a planning condition. Overall, the proposed development is considered to be in accordance with local planning policy and national objectives to support economic growth and achieve sustainable development. As there are no material considerations to the contrary, I would request that planning permission is granted as recommended. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just ask if the committee have any questions. Councillor Crawshaw and Councillor Fisher.
Thanks again, Chair. Yeah, so it's just the same question, really. I just
Sure.
wanted to understand the rationale around the parking.
Yeah, I can certainly respond on that. Thank you. The images that you've seen, the aerial photographs from Google, they actually show vehicles on the site not related to the current occupier. I think because the building is small relative to the size of its yard, the opportunity has been taken to actually let space in the yard to other businesses locally to put vehicles on there. The proposal is to provide a more commensurate amount of parking to the size of the building, and obviously the use of surplus yard would no longer exist.
So the expectation then would be that it would be employee parking. Is that effectively
Yes,
what it would be?
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Fisher.
Thanks, Chair. Looking at the size of the roof, there's plenty of potential there for putting in solar panels. Have you considered that? Because I mean, it would particularly that roof there is entirely south facing, would receive a considerable amount of sunlight, and the sides of the extension would also do that. Has any consideration been given to that to reduce the energy footprint of the building?
Yeah, I'm trying to recall from the project team meetings with the architect and the client. I don't have an immediate answer to say yes or no about that. I know that the principles of energy efficiency were the first port of call, but yeah, it's a valid point about the large roofscape. I think we incorporate skylights within the roof to get natural light in, which again is using the roof for an effective purpose to create a high quality environment inside the building. I think as it stands, well, the proposed drawings don't include for rooftop solar panels.
Could I just ask our planning officers, would they require planning permission to put them on to a later date? So I suppose they would they?
In this location, the permitted development rights are quite permissive for roof mounted solar, especially on the south facing roof, because the south facing roof is far away from the boundaries. On the new extension, it's one of those things that whilst it's being, if you put them in as part of the build project, it would strictly speaking be not in accordance with the approved plans. But then once it's finished, you can retrofit under the same permitted development rules. And we would probably not be concerned if they went on as part of the build project.
Thank you. I'll just ask the
Non-material,
applicant to consider that as a point from the committee's recommendation.
Yes, I'd be happy to relay that to the applicant and his design team.
Okay, Councillor Melly.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned landscaping, and on that subject and biodiversity net gain, does the new pedestrian access through the western boundary require moving any existing landscaping? And if so, will it be replaced elsewhere on site?
I wouldn't describe it as removing any existing landscaping. It's a grass bund essentially at the moment. So yes, there will be the removal of the grass where the pathway is laid, but that will only be the extent of the width of the path. There's trees there that aren't affected. The pathway runs between the trees, so there's no loss there. And is the replacement elsewhere on the site? Yes, there are areas of new planting towards the kind of the rear, the eastern boundary of the site. Admittedly, they're very, very small because this is a functional industrial warehouse site. So there's not a lot of space additional to create for landscaping. So there is a proposal, but it's relatively small.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. The plans includes accessible parking and electric vehicle charging. Will any of the EV charging be accessible parking as well?
Yes, I believe so. I'd have to look up the plans, but from memory, the EV chargers, if you're sorry, if I could refer you to the image on the screen where you see the west elevation of the building, the short elevation facing onto the tarmac car park. I think it's that run of spaces there where the EV chargers will be sited, and yes, that shows us there, doesn't it? If we could zoom in. Yeah, so there's an overlap of electric vehicle charging and accessible parking space there.
Yeah.
Had you considered putting the cycle parking closer to the entrance rather than being over in the car park?
Yes, the original plans had the cycle parking directly adjacent to the building. And I can't quite remember the reason why it was moved. It was either compatibility with the position of windows in the building or another technical matter that when the design team reviewed it, the preferred solution was actually to create a new cycle parking area where it's shown now, which is compatible with the yard and the parking and the building, albeit it is slightly more remote.
Okay, Councillor Crowfield.
Yeah, thank you. My questions are following up on all the ones that have gone before in a way. Just going back to the parking, so you've explained that the additional number, the additional 24 is kind of relates to the size of the extension. So presumably that's because you have some kind of notion of how many extra employees you're going to have. Is it related to that? Is that the plan?
Yes, I think it's rather than it being related to number of employees, it's proportionate to the floor space area of the building. So we increase the floor space area, you would then calculate an increased number of parking spaces. Here, this part of the site where the parking is proposed is essentially being used as parking at the moment. So what we're really talking about is regularizing those spaces properly, demarcating them and segregating them from the yard. The point in principle about are more people expected at the site? Yes, I would hope so. The requirement for the extension is to meet a current and forthcoming need for the existing occupier business. If their business is more successful, then it follows that they may require more people and recruit.
Okay, so I can see that the side of the business that's about the warehousing and moving things around is obviously going to relate to vehicles, but part of it is also offices, isn't it? So going forward, given we're all trying to reduce car use, would you the people you're representing be amenable to a condition for a travel plan to be produced, which would be to reduce car use over time? Given you've got more parking, cycle parking as well.
Yeah, I don't know if that's come through from any of the consultation responses from technical officers. Can't speak for make a decision on behalf of the applicant
Sure,
here.
okay, that's fine. It's a question for
I
officers
think
as well.
inherently we've invested in improving the accessibility by non-car modes here. Currently, that site you can't access on foot or by bike without going on exactly the same roadway as the
That's an
vehicles. So
improvement, yeah.
we've created an enhancement there.
Mhm.
I mean, I would like to think the business will support sustainable travel. I don't know if it would be appropriate to say that at this point that a travel plan should imply reduced use of cars.
Okay, and my second one was, I suppose it's been partly covered, the question about solar PV, etc. But it was just wondering if you'd had a sort of energy assessment done on the whole of the build plans to indicate where you can actually save money on the running of the extension by installing energy efficiency measures. The paper seems to talk about exploring and considering even LED lighting, which I'd have thought would be an obvious thing to include. It will save
Yeah,
a lot of money in running costs.
I agree. I think the answer is no at this stage. I think the way a project progresses is a level of design suitable for the planning stage to get the planning principles agreed, and then as level of design which is more detailed, more technical, and that would look at the precise materials and the precise energy systems and specification at that stage. I don't believe it's been discussed in any detail by the project team at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions then, thank you for your time this evening. Yeah, if you'd like to rejoin the public gallery, thank you. Okay, if there's any further questions for Gareth? If not, if we're happy to move to the debate. Councillor Webb.
I'd like to propose approval as per the officer's recommendations. It's brownfield site. It's a good use of a brownfield. We're simply extending a business, which is a good thing for York. And I think that the only sort of considerations that we could have been explored and actually very well answered by the public participant, I think. So yeah, I'd just like to move approval as per recommendations.
Yeah. I'll give it to Councillor Garwin. Okay, any further comments, Councillor Crackhill?
I was too slow when you said were the questions to Gareth. Could we condition a travel plan?
Highways didn't speak it. And I'm not sure if that's because it doesn't fall within the thresholds where we would normally seek a travel plan. And I can't answer that because I don't have those details in front of me. So I think if you were minded to approve with a condition for a travel plan, I would seek that you defer it, and I'd just make sure that it's in line with when we normally, you know, the scale of a development, the type of development that we would normally seek a travel plan for. But obviously it's in your hands. If you feel that this development in particular justifies a travel plan on its own merits, then that's a decision for you to make.
I just think a major development that's adding parking spaces should always raise questions now, any time. But I was going to say, could we not, rather than defer it, could we not delegate it to for you to go back to the chair and vice chair to say, well, we can or we can't?
Yes, sorry, that's what I meant.
Right.
That's what I meant. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they're necessarily increasing the car parking spaces. They're certainly formalising them because the spaces, you know, there are areas of parking which exist, and they're now being laid out in a more formal manner. They're not so, you know, those the ability for people to park that many cars already exists on the site. It's not like they're taking up space used by other users at the moment.
Says they're providing additional parking spaces.
Yeah, I think that's a matter of definitions, really.
Okay, I'll throw that back to the original proposer and seconder. Do you think that's necessary? You're happy with the original?
Personally, I'm happy with it as it is, based on the fact that there are already a lot of cars on the site, and we heard from the agent, the applicant, about the fact that this isn't likely to generate additional employees, therefore you wouldn't expect too many additional cars. And I don't think that this necessarily does warrant a travel plan. I think given where it is, I understand your concerns, Councillor Craghill, regarding car parking spaces and the need to reduce them over time, but really we just need to reduce the number of cars, full stop. I don't think this particular business is necessarily the battle to have.
Okay, so we've got a proposal which has been seconded. Is there any further debate? Not. Gareth, can you give us a quick summary and then we'll.
So the recommendation is that plan permission is granted subject to the conditions in the report and then subject to my changes to conditions 2 and the deletion of condition 11.
Okay, can I see then all those in favour? Okay, so that's unanimous, so that's approved. Okay. We then have an item on the planning appeal report.
Thank you, Chair. This is the latest, and hopefully we've caught up with the backlog of appeals reporting. So the next one will be more contemporary with the decisions that we've been received. I've just one slight change to make to the statistics, both in table 1 and table 3. So you will have noticed that on page 42, so the list of appeals decided, there's one in Strensall, which was an appeal decision on the basis of a refusal of an approval of details submitted by condition. And whilst we include this in the overall number of decisions received, it doesn't actually count against statistics which are then published by the government. They don't include approval of detailed appeal decisions, which takes that appeals allowed stat in table 1 to 25% allowed. And then with the 12-month performance in table 3, that takes it down to 30%. So there's that. Table 4 is the list of appeals following decisions by committee and subcommittee. And then, as you've seen, we've got the appendices, which are the appeal summaries. Members already get the full decisions emailed around, but there's quite a nice précis by the officers. And then the list of outstanding appeals on page 51, 52 and 53.
Okay, any questions? Any questions from the committee? No, so I think we just note that, don't we? Okay, so we've reached the end of the agenda. Obviously, this is the last meeting of this committee before the elections. So from me to the committee, a huge thank you to everybody for all your hard work and effort and time over the past 4 years. It's been a very interesting 4 years. Thanks in particular as well to Councillor Galvin. I think you're the only councillor of the committees sort of standing down, at least by choice. The voters may have different ideas, but we'll see. So the rest of us might or might not all be back here in a few months' time. And I'm sure as well, a thank you from me and the committee to you in particular, Gareth, for your sort of support and assistance. And I know we don't always follow it, but we probably should do more. And thank you as well to Sandra. And we've had a revolving door of solicitors and legal officers over the years. So, and similarly with democracy officers, Jane, as well. So I think just a note to thank every officer that has at some point or another supported, this committee over the past 4 years. And yeah, we'll certainly send something out. Yes, thank you. Okay.
I just say a few words to say, I wish everybody the best of luck in the coming elections. Some of you may get elected, some of you may lose, or you may all get elected, or you may all lose. I shall be watching it with interest. I've been involved in planning in the city now, one way or another, since I think about 1999, 2000, 2020. I've had a lot of pleasure and enjoyment out of it. We've had some excellent officers all the way through. I've been involved, and I personally would like to thank all those officers that have been at the same time that I've been on the committee and have acted in an extremely professional manner. So thank you very much, one and all. I've enjoyed the banter. I've enjoyed the bit of aggression now and again, but thank you very much, and I wish you all the very best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, CS. And thank you as well. I'm reminded to the webcasting team who, apologies because you're sat behind me. I don't see, but it is hugely appreciated, and particularly through COVID as well, the efforts that made sure that we could continue to operate as we were. So thanks all around.